Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rock and Roll podcast. Check out this record. My name is Mark, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, Frank.
Hey, Mark. Hello, fine people of the world.
For our new listeners out there, this is a podcast where Frank and I recommend albums to each other to check out and give them an honest and thorough review. We also have a wide variety of musical discussions, like in our Spotlight series, where we dig into a band's catalog and see what comes out the other side.
That's right, Mark. Or in our verse series, where we'll pit two albums against each other and they duke it out. Here we go for total stereo domination.
Oh, man.
There you go.
Dude, I thought your brain stopped working for a second there.
I know.
Be sure to check us out on Instagram and our Facebook group. We like to drop additional content that will hopefully leave you wanting of more Frank's musical goodness. Man, that sentence was hard. And the random nonsense that comes out of my mouth. Please, 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 this is so important. If you've got a record you want us to check out, just drop us a comment wherever you find us. We don't have an email address just to force you into liking our stuff in public. Now, like, subscribe, and give us a rate and review while you're at it. So I say this, my good friend Frank.
Yes, sir.
How are you, buddy?
Well, Mark, here we go. When there weren't any parties, she parked by the quarry, walked into the woods until she came to a clearing where townies would gather and drink until blackout, smoke cigs till they're sick, pack bowls.
Amen.
And then pass out. Those, my friends, are my favorite lyrics to my favorite Hold Steady song, and we're going to be talking about them and their new album. So I'm really excited about this. And Mark, when we first discovered them from Boys and the Girls in America, man, we were hooked, and I know you were as well. You want to do a quick, brief history of the band?
Sure. This is a super brief history. First, if you're hearing crying in the background, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you're seeing my cat Opie. Eventually, you'll see his butthole. I apologize for that. Anyways, Hold Steady, ladies and gentlemen, they will lie to you and tell you they're from Brooklyn, but we all know they're from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay, Craig Finn's from Minneapolis, and a bunch of the bands from New York. But if you go to Minneapolis, there's like a crappy punk rock club that has a star in the sidewalk with their name on it. So I don't know how you're much more from Minneapolis than that. Anyways, formed in 2004, this is their 7th studio album. You'll hear Frank and I talk quite a bit about Craig Finn, the singer and the lyricist for the band. So real quick, the other players on this record, and I apologize, these folks have some really crazy ass last names. Tad Kubler, lead guitar and backing vocals. Galen Polvica on bass guitar and backing vocals. Bobby Drake, drums and percussion. I know he's got a really hard name. Franz Nicolay on keyboard and anything that resembles a keyboard. Steve Selvage, rhythm guitar, right, and backing vocals. I also wanted to note here that Franz is the producer on this record as well. It's the first Hold Steady record he's the producer on, and that may explain perhaps why it's a little bit more piano forward. Frank, what would you say was your first impression of this record?
Sure, Mark, and I hope you don't mind, but it is actually their 8th album, not the 7th. This new record.
Snap! Sorry, my B.
And Bobby Drake, is that Iceman from X-Men?
Is it?
I don't know. But anyway, good job with the names, because I couldn't pronounce half of those either. So anyway,
oh my goodness,
I know.
Great folks, each and every one of them, I assume.
So my first impression is that this album is lyrically wordy. Now, listen, they've all been that way, yes, but Boys and Girls in America, in my opinion, started Craig Finn and company from being wordy and having melody at the same time. The album prior to that, Separation Sunday, is a great example of basically a rhythm section backing up with these rapid fire lyrics to the point where the verses and the choruses are sometimes tough to distinguish, but it works, and obviously it has worked. Boys and Girls in America started the use of melody in these songs that are essentially, literally works and stories with rich in characters. Open Door Policy has that feel for sure, but it's almost a throwback to the very early albums. But the music more resembles what they're progressing to be and stuff from the most recent albums. Each album from the Hold Steady will really bring impressive moments where you're thinking, how on earth did they write this? So how does this apply to the new album? Well, Mark, we'll get to that and we'll talk about it. But what was your first impressions?
Is this an art project or a rock album? Either way, we'll get into that in a bit because that's what we're doing here. I have a feeling Frank and I will see this album in two very different lights. But regardless, my first impression is that it's not a casual listening record. I feel like some of those earlier records Frank mentioned, like Boys and a Girl in America and Stay Positive, you can really kind of throw those on and something will grab at you. This one's going to take a little bit more of you sitting down and really, maybe get like a journal or a piece of paper to doodle on, something where you can listen and just think about your feelings, because this thing's going to catch you like dead smack in the feels. You know what I mean? And with that said, I think it's a good segue into the first track, Frank.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Thank you. That radio degree hasn't paid off yet. Anyways, the Feelers, as far as an opening track goes, it's a bold choice, right? We're really making some interesting decisions right out of the gate, because it sets the tone for the rest of the record, but only in that you really don't have a fucking clue what the rest of the record's going to sound like. It really, you're like, okay, this is a Hold Steady record, but what way are they going with it? What, are we going to get a dark album? Are we going to get something poppy? What's going on here? It kind of fits. It doesn't really fit any kind of standard musical structure you're maybe prepared for. And it plays a lot off Finn's vocal performance and lyrics. I really enjoy those lyrics and even his vocal performance, but I don't know that this song has anything more than like a kind of a poem set to a backing band, as opposed to, really song structure and form. It threw me off balance at first and really made me acknowledge that I need to pay more attention to what's happening on this record.
Yeah, as you said, it's not a casual listening record at all. I like the opening track. It reminds me of stuff from Finn's last two solo records. The piano, I like actually how it really drives this musically. It's almost like the piano is taking the role of the guitar, where it was once dominant, and the guitar is actually adding to the background. Now, based on what you said, that Franz Nicolai is producing this, that may be the reason why we're hearing this. The ending to me is actually very Springsteen-esque, where it concludes the story. It attempts to set up that there's hope for whatever will occur, which is good because it kind of leaves you guessing. Track 2, we have Spices, which for the longest time, well, by longest meaning this past week, I thought it was Species, but it's spicy. It's Spices. I like the dark and moody notes that almost resemble a guitar detuning in the beginning. What I like for the band, that they built their career off, is these story style songs and these signature sayings. They could bring them back, and that's what they did in this song. So we get Holly from Separation Sunday. We get The Sweet Part of the City from Heaven Is Whenever, and also How a Resurrection Really Feels. The music builds to a very nice climax, and I love these anthems of desperation, and I think this is a great tune and an example of that. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, there's definitely a familiar feel to this track, and you can hear Finn kind of using the Hold Steady as a whole as a basis for any characters he develops, which is really kind of cool. You get a much clearer musical structure out of this tune and lyrically out of Finn as we did from the first one. I mean, he's writing his ass off on this thing, and it's really cool. It's tricky without an obvious chorus, but once you realize what he's doing is he's using a rhyme scheme in place of a chorus, so that your brain is filling in the gaps. You just need to learn that the words are different, but the pattern is the same. It's really smart, and if you're not paying enough attention, it will confuse you. It takes a little getting used to for me, but I thought it was really cool. It's a really interesting track. Track 3 is Lanyards, another cool poem set to music. This time sonically, we're doing more of an old school Hold Steady sound in terms of song structure. And we get an honest to God chorus 3 tracks in, which is kind of cool. There's some amazing lyrics here that all feel like stream of consciousness, as most of Finn's lyrics kind of do. This one feels most like a song and less like a poem. It's a very cool track.
Yeah, Mark, you know, the classic Hold Steady here. The song is a bunch of heart, and they do a great job with the storytelling and lots of imagery, and it keeps the wordiness actually to a minimum. It's about someone going out to California to make it, and we see the experiences they encounter. I really like when artists, and Finn does this a lot too, they take the term like lanyards, and that's obviously the title of the song, and they mention it once in the story, and that creates kind of the whole concept and the idea for it. So you're just hearing lanyards one time, but that's the name of the song. Big
Yeah,
fan of that style. Go ahead.
I like that they used lanyards as a symbol, right? Lanyards, then laminates, and then wristbands.
Right.
And the idea here that we're connecting a symbol that we wear on our body with the level of access we have to life. It's a
Yes.
really kind of very cool concept that can be very easily glossed over. I just figured it out as Frank was talking.
Yeah, absolutely. See, that's great, and that's why this record, and I'll get to where I feel it's high in replay value, but things like that you'll just pick up, and then whatever that style is, I'm a big fan of it. The lyrics are very honest, and it gives us what maybe again someone pursuing this dream will encounter. The music's smooth to me like a carpet that's layered with perfectly toned instruments. I really like this tune, Mark.
A
So
carpet layered with perfectly tuned instruments.
you like
Wonderful.
that? You like
I
that?
do. I do. I repeated it out loud. I must love it.
All right, so next we have Family Farm. I love the loudness here, and of course, shocking, the piano heavy verses. The references are just great. I mean, from Eddie Van Halen to Talking Heads to the Rolling Stones. If the E Street Band added some distortion on guitar and really blared them out, I think you would have something resembling this song. I actually got some stuck between stations vibe in the middle, which was welcome. I think it's an epic building or an epic ending and a build up. And to me, this is rock and roll in 2021, not rock and roll. So
I'm working on taking his lyrics uh, not quite so literal here because it sounds like he and the young lady here broke out of rehab. You know, fair enough. I wouldn't blame him if I were in rehab. But it's tricky, right? Because it's hard to tell what's autobiographical with him, and that's kind of one of the cool things about this. It really sucks you in. I love that we're getting into more of a rock and roll format, as Frank talked about, and really appreciate like the backing vocals and depth to this track. There's really so much going on here
yeah,
that it's really cool. It's certainly more of a rock and roll number on this record than a couple of the other places. And I think it's a very distinct sound to them, Frank. I
yeah.
think you and I are going to disagree on what rock and roll in 2021 sounds like.
Mhm.
I think this is their rock and roll for 2021, but it's definitely a cool track. Um, Track 5 is called Unpleasant Breakfast. I've never been good at eating breakfast. I think it's because I came from a single family home and my mother worked at night. So that's not, we're way off base. I really want to like this song, but I'm fighting with every listen. Lyrically, it's pretty cool, except for the last stanza feels a little cheap, where he gets into literally repeating the last two lines over, where he's never done that anywhere else in the song, and they're not his best lines, and it kind of feels a little cheap. I also can't stand the woo
Mm,
sound,
mm.
which I'm guessing is supposed to sound like people having fun on a boardwalk as he's cleaning the carpets or as they're out in the water. There's some really cool imagery here, but there's also some really clunky imagery that didn't work for me for this song. For every hey, that's kind of cool moment this song has, there's kind of like a wait, what was that moment? And it's really distracting. I wanted to like this song. I just don't think I do.
Yeah, so this was a little unexpected musically, and I'm cool with the ambitious nature. You know, that gives this some groove. There's almost a jam band feel to it, and Mark, you know, I'm not the biggest jam band fan,
Uh,
but I welcome the mid tempo, you know, jam position in the middle of this record. My biggest gripe, like yours, is the yelling or whatever that is that's on loop during the chorus. You know, if you listen to it on Spotify, you'll see the image of a bird. So I don't know what I just don't know what that's supposed to be. It got annoying. That's my point. Is it got annoying? Yeah, exactly. And I'd be totally fine without it. I would love to hear the song without it.
yeah.
Thus far, and spoiler alert, it's my least favorite track. So on the record. So, I know. Track 6, Heavy Covenant. I think that this song best shows like the band the sound that they're trying to go for now and how they want to progress. It's not so much of the guitar anymore over Finn's heavy lyrics. It's about a precise and tight rhythm section that complements the lyrical talents of Finn. It's a deep and rich sound, and every member on the band is a vital member in ensuring its success. So I also dug this tune. What about you?
Man, this song's just about buying drugs in a new town.
Ah,
No, it's definitely not a guitar-driven rock music, but it's cool. I think it almost has kind of a jazz or blues quality to it in that the music is almost coming second to the lyrics and the lyrical delivery in that kind of way. But like I said, I think it's still pretty cool. I'd like a little bit more structure musically out of it. I felt like it just kind of stretched itself out instead of really kind of having parts. But again, they're trying to do something a little different, and I appreciate that. It feels like they're just kind of making changes based on maybe what's going on with the lyrics or what fits well, and it doesn't really seem like there was a lot of thought put into the music as much as I would like for it to. It's kind of off-putting and cool at the same time. Like I'm really spoiler alert, I'm really conflicted with this record because it does a lot of cool things and it does a lot of things that I go, man, I really don't get that. But maybe I'm not supposed to. And I know for a guy who's got a lot of fucking strong opinions about shit, you're like, how the fuck do you not have an opinion about this? It's just that hard of a curveball for me. Like, and songs like this are really kind of that like, wait, what moment for me where I'm like, I can't tell if this is just over my head or not. Like, it's really an interesting thing. Yeah.
and maybe you need to, like you had earlier, it's kind of those light bulb moments where just something all of a sudden hits you out of the moment about those particular songs to where it starts then making more sense, which could be why maybe we don't have strong opinions about it at this point in time, you know?
Yeah. I thought you were going to tell me to pull my head out of my ass.
Oh, oh no, I was actually digging what you were saying. So
No. And it's interesting, folks listening. You're hearing this on Friday. The record came out last Friday. Provided you're listening to it when it drops, because you're a loyal listener. Frank and I listened to this record 4 days before recording this. So we really tried to jam this thing in there as quick as we could and try to process it, which can be tricky. I'm not
with
saying,
a record like this, yes.
yeah. Whereas the Foo Fighters, we knew it was trash.
I was gonna say a Foo Fighters comment. Good, I'm glad you did it.
We're at the prior procedure.
We are.
Cool. Musically, I dig this song, and we even get a line with the album's title in it, but it's never right. The album title, we're not beating it to death, right? We're not like open door policy, open door policy, right? None of that happening. It's a very smart use of it. Finn is really ripping with the poetry, which is cool, and all but I'm kind of missing a little bit of that rock and roll element from him. There's so much poetry. I'm looking for a little bit more classic rock and roll structure. And maybe that's just something I need to get used to, the fact that this is how the band is now, and we're not doing those old things. It works. I just kind of had a tough one. I wasn't really feeling it, especially some of the imagery. I feel like he's just kind of mushing things together, and it didn't quite stick for me.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. How you don't have to beat these words to death. Waiting on a war, the song by the Foo Fighters, which we're going to hear now in every set forever if you ever see them live or play. So, prior procedure, something uncomfortable about the song that I can't quite put my finger on, but again, it works. The guitars and pianos are really complementing each other here. The horns come in, so we get some nice horns in the middle, and we finally get, as you mentioned, the open door policy mentioned here, which is the center concept of this record. It resembles, I think, some of their early records, minus maybe some memorable quotes, but that's okay because the ending I think makes up for it. Now we get Riptown, track 8. It's not quite clear if in the story if the actress right is from Lanyards a couple of tracks previously, or it could be pulled from their characters from Slapped Actress from Stay Positive. But that's the fun of it all. It's just kind of fun to piece this all together. It has a guided by voices feel with the guitars in almost a lo-fi way. The words just ride and groove here, and it's not overthought as much. And simplicity, I think, sometimes for this band could work in certain tracks. So I dug Riptown. What about you?
Yeah, lots of references here for sure. I feel like a little like I'm beating a dead horse here when I get to say there's like some really cool lyrics, but musically it just feels like the band's hanging out and trying to figure out some cool changes to fill in and maybe throw a couple backing vocals in. I wish there were just kind of more rock and roll here. I wish there was a little bit more structure. Um, it's a cool track that just doesn't kind of deliver for me. So
Yeah.
um, I'm going to need your help with this name. Me and Madalena?
Magdalena.
Oh, okay. See, I would have thought there was a G in Magdalena.
Yeah, there is.
Oh,
I must have put that wrong.
don't worry about me. Me and Magdalena, that is.
Me and Magdalena.
Yeah, I'm really not feeling this song either. We're getting more poetry from Finn, but it doesn't feel so fresh. Man, I wish the old horror movie sound that they use, kind of like just wearing a cock tease, like they do that old creepy, like,
yeah, exactly.
I wish that were its own thing. It's a straightforward song about falling in love with a dude in a band, and the stories about why they never work, and how you end up going chasing that dream and coming back, and there's just not like a chorus to hook you. That it feels like the band's kind of running out of ideas to keep up with Finn, and it's kind of a bummer because I feel like this song could be a much cooler song. There's a lot of great bones here. It's just not delivering for me.
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually my favorite song on the record. So Craig Finn said in an interview, I somehow came across another song called "Me and Magdalena," actually by the Monkees, which is weird, and it's from one of their newer records, which was produced by Adam Schlesinger, who passed away. He was from Fountains of Wayne. He passed away unfortunately from COVID, and producer Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie wrote this song, and he said he listened to it and he thought it was a great song, and he knew that he never heard it before, but he said subconsciously he must have internalized it because he had a song with the same title. So I think there's some late 70s Springsteen organs here on the verse, and it's almost listen, it's lyrically polarizing for sure. And towards the end, you get, like you said, that haunting vibe, and I'm like, oh, is it going to continue? But then it fades out, and you get the guitar solo, and the chorus comes back. I don't know. I think it's a standalone song based on the content. And to me, it's personally the highlight of the record. But I love how we, different, speaking of internalizing, I love how we both have different ways of doing that. Last proper track, because there's a bonus track, is Hanover Camera. I get some Tom Petty breakdown here in the middle, the song breakdown. I love the party with the python in the shower, like lyrically, I think it's pretty cool. And I like the next line another line where it says, we were up against a miracle, maxed out every night. Our knees were shot from way too many prayers. Again, paints a very vulnerable picture of struggle and leaves some light at the end of the tunnel. At least that's what I'm getting from it. I love the overall vibe, showing that you can really make something at a constant pace and be meticulous about it, almost in a fanatical way, and it could create some really cool and beautiful moments. I think it's a great example, this song, of quality songwriting. But what's your thoughts though, Mark?
This feels like they said, what if we just remake one of these songs as if they did in the 70s, and here it is. Lyrically, it's pretty cool. It's got some great lines to it. It doesn't feel like some of his best work on the record. And it comes across kind of hokey in a few places. I'm going to say I'm not a fan of this song, but I do like it. It's so, and I feel that way with a lot of this record, that there's a lot more to delve into.
You're conflicted.
I am conflicted. Let's move on to track 11, Parade Day. It's the bonus track. I think conceptually it's an interesting idea for a song. I just don't think they wanted to put that much work into it, and it kind of shows musically. There's so little going on that it feels like they wanted to focus on the lyrics, but lyrically it didn't feel like he's been able to pin down what it was he was trying to say about those summer traditions from his youth, and that comes across it feels a little flat and empty, and I get why they would use it for a bonus track. I can imagine if this came out like in 97, there'd been 45 minutes of just empty space before this song happened, and you would have been like, oh man, it's so deep. And then we would have just been like, but is it? Like, if this had just come up, we'd been like, I don't know. So I don't know, kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell why it was the bonus track, and Finn said this is a one-off and it didn't fit with the theme of the rest of the record. It's about him growing up in Minneapolis and the observation of the changes of the city made during his tenure there. Like again, it's a cool tune as a bonus track. I could tell the content lyrically would not fit on this album, but I'll take a bonus track. At least one, it was digestible, so it's enjoyable. Um, Mark, why don't you talk about some of your final thoughts?
All right. So I don't love this record, but as a fan of the band, I think there are some really interesting choices being made here, and that they're really trying to change the idea of what people think this band has to be. At least musically, they're really trying to stretch that envelope. To that end, I think it worked. I was hoping for more of a rock and roll album, and I don't think we got that. I think we got a collection of generally themed poems set to music from a rock band, not necessarily playing rock and roll. And to that extent, I think it did work, right? If you weren't looking for a rock and roll album, if you were looking for perhaps a collection of poems set to music, and these were the guys that you came up with, I think you would really like this record. I think I was, and that's, I think part of what Frank and I, at the very least, need to wrestle with, or at least myself, is that the hold steady is an ever evolving thing. And to say like, hey, I want another Stay Positive, or I want another Boys and Girls in America, or I want another Separation Sunday, you're not going to get that. You're going to get wherever the band's rolling to. And I think that's more honest to them than giving me what I want. And I appreciate that they do that. So for me, this album's getting a 6 out of 10. It's not for a lack of trying. I really think there's a great effort here. The record sounds gorgeous. It doesn't sound like anybody's slouching on any parts. There are just some choices I wouldn't have made. But then again, I'm a fat guy on the internet and I'm not in the whole set. So
And just to wrap some context around this, this is way better than the Foo Fighters record, right?
oh, yeah, I mean, we're talking about, I wouldn't say like, oh, that's apples and oranges. Like, we're talking about like apples and kiwis. Like, those are very different things.
Yeah.
And certainly both bands were trying for something different, right? I think that these guys did a better job of doing something different that I'd listen to again.
Right. Totally. Yeah. So, in the beginning, I wasn't sure if I was going to dig this. I felt the power of the hold steady is where the melodies actually were on display in the midst of the lyrically heavy universe that's created by Finn. With their last album, I feel being a tad uninspired and a frequent release schedule by Finn for his solo work, I thought this is just going to be an extension of that. Now it is at times, but musically, I think the band has progressed, and with more listens, right? This is where the replay value comes into play. I was able to pick up on these little things that realize they're doing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable that this band was able to create it. I mean, it's so rich in details about life mixed with trying circumstances. Finn's signature of adding the Catholic lyrics are also here. Listen, it's not Boys and Girls in America. It's not Stay Positive or Heaven is Whenever. And that's okay. That's okay. They found a way to make these cathartic songs and awkward at times anthems. And although we're not going to California to become famous nor partying with pythons and showers, we could find something to relate with. So listen, honestly, outside of the annoying sounds and unpleasant breakfast, I really like all these tracks. I feel it was a better effort than thrashing through Passion and more consistent. And even Teeth Dreams too. So I give this a 9 out of 10. To me, it gets better with each listen, so it has great replay value for me.
Yeah, what's interesting, Frank, is that a lot of times we'll do these records, even records that I recommend, and we'll do the show, and I'll go, okay, like I'm done listening to that, at least for a while. Whereas with this record, I am looking forward to going back to it because I do feel like there are more pieces to this puzzle I haven't uncovered yet.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And plus, you and I tend to find different things we like about the record, and then by sharing them with each other, as you genuinely saw me do earlier, we discovered things about the records we didn't know we liked, or things we didn't know we hated.
Yeah.
And it's really just kind of fun doing that with you. So thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Ooh.
I know, I know. You know what's crazy too is earlier today I was just taking the guitar and playing, and I'm like, what if I were to even try to resemble what like Finn does? I'm like, I wouldn't even know like where to start. Like where do you start that? How do you even do that? So I just give him mad props, and yeah, man, it's been a fun ride. So um, I think it's time for a top list. What about you, Mark?
That sounds like fun, Frank. We haven't done one of those in a week.
A week. Now, listen, to hold steady, I think Mark, you agree with me, is a band that I think more people should know at least and get into.
Mhm.
And I'm glad we both have had the opportunity to. So let's do a list. We'll split it up 5 and 5 of bands
Mhm.
and artists maybe we don't know enough about but want to. How does that sound?
This was my stupid idea, wasn't
Yeah, it was, yeah.
it? Absolutely. You want me to go first, Frank?
Yeah, take it away, buddy.
So these are really not in any particular order. Normally, I have a very specific order for when I pick my list. This one really was, kind of the idea was like, well, what do we do a top list for? And I kind of cheating, trying to get Frank to tell me what he wants to listen to. I suggested bands that we should do that we want to do more of. So mine are kind of all over the place, but I think there's some really interesting things in here that I know I need to like more. The first one's 45 Grave. Um, they've always been interesting to me because I'm of their connection with the goth movement and macabre music. And there's a lot more there than I think people really give them credit for. And they're one of those bands that I've always been interested to dive into.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I first on my list is Towns Van Zandt. I've been told he's one of the greatest songwriters ever. His musical style has often been described as melancholy with poetic lyrics, so more poetry. He's well respected for his guitar playing ability. He's been on my radar for a while, so I really like to get more into him. So that was first on my list.
Cool. Next, I have The Dead South from
Mhm.
Canada.
Oh,
Yeah, people have actually been telling me like for years that I need to dive in and put them on. And a few times I actually have, but I find myself distracted, and for whatever reason, I'm not circling back. They've got this amazing bluegrass sound I should be more into, but for some fucking reason, I just haven't been able to get into them. And they're one of those bands that I really think you and I would dig. That maybe we should just take the time and do.
yeah. I'm cool with that, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Next up on my list is Patty Griffin. She's from Maine, and I've been told that she is a national treasure with regards to her songwriting ability. So,
To
I,
Maine.
yeah, yeah. So I'm familiar with a couple of her songs, like "When It Don't Come Easy" and "Cold as It Gets." "Cold as It Gets" is a tremendous tune. She has 10 albums, 3 live records. I'd like to take some more time to listen to her when I'm not distracted and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. My next choice is a band called Gallows, a modern
Gallows.
English punk band that should be right up my alley, but for some reason I've just never given them the time of day. I think it might just be like I think it's been one of these situations. That dude sucks, and he really likes that band, so fuck him. Situations, you know what I'm talking about, Frank?
Yes.
I'm over it now, and I was like, oh, why the fuck don't I listen to that band? And I just haven't. So maybe maybe we give it a chance. And then I thought about this: it is possible for horrible people to like good music, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they had a singer change, right? Like, in their career too, so there's
yeah,
some
I
difference
really
there.
like that dude Frank Carter, who was their front man.
Right.
Does his solo career is pretty cool. I'm kind of into
Oh,
that. So it's kind
okay.
of where I know that I should be listening to it, but also kind of haven't given enough of a shit.
Yep. I hear you. I hear you.
Yep.
Next on my list, we've talked about them, Mark, a little bit. Mission of Burma.
Yeah.
They're a post-punk band from Boston, formed in '79, and they're responsible for releasing some highly regarded albums with massive cult followings. Just some brief listens. I'm getting some Clash and Jam feel from this band. A lot of people tell me that their first EP, um, or it's kind of like a compilation, kind of similar to how Fugazi's is, and their first official album are really really good. I think it's something we would probably both dig, and I want to get into.
Cool. Um, Number two, if you follow me for any reason on Facebook or Instagram, you'll know that I recently fell down a rabbit hole, and I'd like to continue. It's Willie Nelson.
Willie.
I know. The dude has like 70 albums under his belt, and that doesn't include like live albums and shit.
Oh, insane.
You know, he just feels like a dude that's been such an icon and been around for so long that there's got to be so much more than just the hits. And I just really haven't had the time to crack into it and do that deep dive that I really want to do. So,
Yeah, I
right,
know. And he's got great voice, man. And
classic voice. I mean,
uh
unequivocally that is Willie Nelson. Immediately.
hands down, hands down. So smooth. And yeah, I would love to do that deep dive with you. So hands
Mhm.
down. Next I have is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I
Ooh.
am told if you like Tom Waits, which we all know I do, then you need to listen to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. He's known for his baritone voice and lyrically obsessions with death, religion, love, and violence. Check, 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 check. So I want to give him some more listens.
Yeah, plus he does the theme song from Peaky Blinders, which my wife and I have watched like at least 5 times.
Yeah, yeah. There you go, man.
I know at least that one song very well. So my number one pick, Frank, please don't be mad at me. The Jam.
Ah,
Keep telling me to listen to them, and it's not that I don't want to. It's that I get distracted. I swear to God, it's not you, it's me. I really dig. Frank gave me all of the mod cons to listen to,
yep.
and I really dug it. But for some reason, I listened to it. I went, man, that was pretty cool. And then I just moved right on, and I never looked back. So it's one of those ones. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay.
That I need to just like I want to get into the catalog to see what's there, see what's because all mod cons was cool,
Yeah.
but what else is in there? There's clearly got to be other dope stuff, or at least I would hope.
There's a lot of cool stuff, and the song "Down at the Tube Station at Midnight" or "Down in the Tube Station at Midnight" is my favorite from them. It's so good. Yeah, I want you to get more into them, and I am happy to be on that journey with you, man.
Thanks, buddy. What's your last pick?
My last pick is Jesus and Mary Chain. So Scottish alt rock band formed in 1983. They don't probably sound anything like I think that they do in my head, but it's just another band I'd like to sit down and listen to based on recommendations. Again, a couple people have been like, "Oh, you might like them and might like them." So Jesus and Mary Chain, I would like to give a try.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
literally know nothing about that band.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Again, I probably think they sound like something totally different, but great list, Mark, and I think it's pretty cool. And why don't you tell the good folks out there what we have next?
Face to motherfucking face, Frank. We're talking about the whole shebang, my brother. It's spotlight time, and we're spotlighting on Face to Face.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited to bring back the Spotlight episodes. Look, Face to Face has been around since 1991, man. It's unbelievable. There are 10 studio albums, 2 official live albums, also 2 cover albums. Mark, I tell you, they're one of my go-tos when I just want to sit down, listen to some good punk rock where I don't have to like overthink it. I could sing along to it. They have a lot of good songs, man. Sometimes the songs outweigh the albums as a whole, but I'm really looking to uncover that in the next episode, and I think you're pretty amped about that too, right?
Yeah, I am kind of interested to really dig in. We were talking earlier. I'd say I'm probably really familiar with 7 to 8 out of the 10 albums. So diving in and really just kind of seeing what they're all about is really going to be fun. Plus, this is a series you and I always do. We talk about the band. We talk about a little bit of their history, who's in the band,
Yep.
their contributions, what things worked well, what things were a terrible disaster.
Yep. All the
Face to
drama
Face
behind it.
Yeah, they're a really interesting group of guys. I believe there's a documentary somewhere.
There is. I saw that years ago. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to dive into them and see what's going on.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah, I can't wait. Hey, everyone, thank you for listening and spending
Yeah.
some time with us.
Mhm.
Give a like, subscribe, all that good jazz. So
Hearts and hearts.
yeah, absolutely. Farts and hearts. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And remember to stay safe out there.
Bye bye.
There you go.